Hey guys, this is AP StarCraft, and in this game I'll be presenting as Zerg versus Terran on the map Xelnaga Caverns. I wanted to present this game because it's going to be presenting a Terran strategy that's pretty difficult to deal with as Zerg and requires a lot of APM in order to counter. As you can see over here, I'm not really APM spamming right now. Yeah, it's up to age right now, but I'm not. As you can see, I'm not moving rally points or whatever. I'm just selecting my larva and holding D, whatever, making my drones. So, and when facing this certain type of Terran strategy, which is basically barrack units plus spread out siege tanks, it's going to require a lot of APM in order to make sure that your units are not getting killed by the siege tanks while trying to reach to the marines, and it's fairly difficult. As you can see, my opponent is really going hardcore with the APM spams at over 200. Mine is under 50 right now currently, and the average is below 70. I'll let you guys look at this APM again later on in the game. So, what is this map? We have an expansion over here, a little bit out in the open. It's kind of easy to get hit over here by raiding, so it could be a little bit difficult depending on who you're facing in this map to early harassment. So I'm sending my drone scout over here to go check out what my opponent is doing. Make sure it's safe to go put down my hatchery. In this game I decided to go spawning pool first, then hatchery, due to the fact that this is a 2 starting position map, meaning I'm starting here, so I know my opponent is going to be down up here, so I didn't want to risk my opponent coming down here and doing something that would jeopardize my expansion, such as putting down a bunker over here real quick or doing an all-in rush over here, denying me my expansion. So to be a little bit on the safer side, I decided to go for a bit of a slower expand. Building a couple of lings right now for scouting purposes, and after that I'm going to be basically, the plan is at least to be going all drones for a little bit of a while. My opponent is doing a gas steal in response to my gas steal of his gas, but I don't really see the reason for doing this. As Zerg, you're not going to really need a fast gas such as this for a while, so him stealing my gas really did nothing to me. All it did was make him lose a SCV, and I'm not even going to bother knocking it down for now because there's no reason to knock it down. My queens are going to slowly work at it. So I'm sending down my lings up to my opponent's base to go scout out exactly what my opponent is doing. I see that he has a barracks and he has a factory over here, and both buildings does not have attachments at this time. So this could be indicative of your opponent deciding to go a fast starport, which my opponent indeed is going to be going. And it looks like he's going to go for a little bit of a push with these 4 marines and this 1 Hellion over here. And what do I have to counter this? I'm building a spine crawler at this time. I'm building 2 more lings, but I don't really have much to deal with it. I have a couple of queens hanging out right now. The Hellion is at my base, and I have nothing to deal with it at my base right now. But my queen just popped out, so he's going to be able to shoo away the Hellion. Oh, maybe not. Looks like the Hellion is still running around. My spine crawler has popped out too, though. So that's me offering some protection. Looks like my drones, I try to move my drones away, but it looks like I misclicked and they're just doing nothing right now. I'm building 12 lings, so that's probably going to be able to deal with it with the queen. And I have another queen also on the way, probably because I noticed that my opponent had the starport just to be safe. I don't know what my opponent was going to be going. If my opponent was going banshees or anything like that, I would need more than 2 queens in order to deal with it. So I was able to kill off my opponent's initial raiding party, and unit lost, let's see, 150 to 475. So I came out ahead in that exchange, but my opponent did force me to make some links. So instead of making drones, I had to make a little bit of an army. Well, over here a lot more came out. So my opponent was able to successfully slow down my economy, but I don't know if it was worth it with the amount of damage that he took. I mean, it's not that great, but he took a lot more damage than I did in that little exchange. And it looks like my opponent is putting down additional barracks, so my opponent, and he is getting pre-igniter, blue flame hellions, which could be very dangerous against the Lings. Lings have a pretty big difficulty in dealing with that. And once they get blue flames, you basically need to transition to other units outside of Lings, such as roaches or mutalisks or something of that nature. If you get a good surround with your Lings and have banelings in the group, you might be able to deal with the blue flame hellions, but against a good opponent, your opponent should be able to successfully deny any surround such as that unless he makes a huge mistake. So right now I don't really have much to deal with it, and it looks like I'm getting ready to send in my overseer over here to go check out what my opponent has at his base. My opponent looks like he's making a couple of Vikings over here to go do some overlord hunting, which is a little bit of annoyance until I'm able to get out a couple of mutalisks in order to clean up the Vikings and push it back to his base. Spire is going up. Baneling Nest is going up as well. My opponent has several Hellions, so my Ling army might not be faring so well against what he has on the field at the moment. But let's see what happens exactly. Let's move over to reduction, and looks like I'm just ecoing up right now. Economy wise, I'm pretty far ahead of my opponent at this time. Unit wise, army wise. Army wise, my opponent has a lot larger army than I do. And looks like my opponent's getting ready for a push. And let's see how we deal with this. My opponent has a bunch of Hellions, a good amount of Marines, and a couple of Marauders. And it looks like I saw them coming, and I'm making some Banelings at this time. Let's see what else I'm making. I'm making a couple of Mutalisks as well. This queen needs to be doing a better job injecting, but it looks like I'm not. And it looks like my opponent is about to getting ready to come into my base and wreak havoc on my mineral line. Running my queen away over here. It's got a lot of energy. We'll have to try not to lose it, but looks like I'm going to lose that queen, unfortunately. But somehow, I don't even know what just happened, but somehow I was able to kill his entire army. Let's look at that again. What happened here? Looks like I ran in my link. I have no idea how I was able to destroy my opponent like that. Let's see what happened exactly. The Baneling didn't even have speed on him, so... Oh, he picked up his army and decided to run away. And I ran all my Banelings to that one Marauder, which was pretty dumb on my part. But now that I have some Mutalisks, my Zerglings are not going to be as vulnerable. But it looks like I'm losing all my Mutalisks, unfortunately, because I'm being a little bit of a noob over there. Shouldn't have done that. That was a really dumb move. Let's see how I'm going to deal with this. So I'm building additional Lings, building additional Banelings, and building additional Mutalisks. And as I stated in previous games, a lot of people don't actually realize that Mutalisks do fairly well against Vikings. I mean, if you have a Mutalisk army versus a Viking army of equal size, the Mutalisks will come out on top. And despite what some people think, Corruptors are actually not the counter to Vikings. Corruptors actually lose slightly against Vikings, so Mutalisks are the better unit to use versus Vikings for the most part. Except in certain circumstances, but that's a case-by-case basis. It looks like my opponent is going to back off, seeing that I have a fairly large Mutalisk army over here, and his Vikings are not going to be able to do that much damage. And what I should have done seeing those Vikings is drop a couple of spine crawlers over here, but it looks like I was too busy massing an army and probably should be doing that later on in the game. And it looks like my opponent is transitioning from Hellions to siege tanks. Army size, my opponent's still pretty far ahead of me, but I'm still ahead of my opponent eco-wise, harvester count, but it looks like my opponent is actually harvesting faster than I am, probably due to this one mule that he got over here, and a couple of mules that he just sent down here. So I'm taking my mules out for a raiding party at this time, and I'm going to take out this Viking over here, and it looks like my opponent is putting down a couple of turrets, but doesn't look like he's going to be going. Oh wait, this one's going to finish before I'm able to kill off the SCV over there. So my opponent was able to put up a turret over here and was able to shoot my units away. But it looks like I was able to kill a good amount of SCVs. I'm not exactly sure how many I was able to kill, but it looks like I killed a couple over there. Unit loss shows, but it looks like it wasn't. I'm not exactly sure when I lost this amount of units, but it looks like my opponent is ahead of me in the unit loss section. Looks like I lost a good amount of units more than my opponent, probably from me losing those mutilates earlier on in the game. And I have put down the Roach Warren also because even though Roach Warren probably does not win cost-wise against Marines, until you reach a certain amount of roaches or Marines, they do win supply for supply, so they are a good support unit to have along with your Lings and your Mutalists and whatever, and just to add a little bit of extra DPS when your opponent has all his units clumped up and it's hard to get a good surround on them. And the roaches also work fairly well against the Hellions, and they're better able to deal with the siege tank blast than your Zerglings are able to, which often get completely raped by siege tank blasts. And it looks like my opponent is going in for another push with a pretty sizable force over here. Army count wise, my opponent is slightly ahead of mine. And it looks like my opponent is going to take out a couple of creep tumors. And let's see what happens over here, because this is a fairly sizable force and he has a bigger force than I do. But it looks like if I get a good surround, I'll be able to deal with this. My Balins still do not have Balin speed for some reason. I should have gotten that a lot earlier. It looks like I ran all my Balins into a Marauder that was hanging out in front of the Marines over there. I lost all the Balins over there, but it looks like I have additional Balins over here that I forgot to rally along with the troops, and with my roaches over here I'm going to be able to clean up the forces over here, and it looks like I'm going to be able to kill a bunch of medevacs over here. And I guess it's good that I made that a little bit of a mistake, because I ended up not losing all my Banelings over here, so I do have some excess Banelings left over in order to deal with any additional pushes. I should really get the Baneling speed, however. And it looks like I'm going in for another harassment attempt with my Mutalist now that I was able to take care of that little push that my opponent was able to do. But it looks like my opponent was able to pump out a whole lot of Marines very quickly, and he's going to be denying me any kind of harassment that I might be trying to do with my Mutalists. Looks like I took my expansion over here, so I'm up one expansion on my opponent's two command centers. And as Zerg, you're going to always want to try to be up one expansion when you're up against up against Protoss or Terran, for both economic reasons and for unit production reasons. So I'm just going around the map right now, poking my head around my opponent's base, seeing if I could get at any of my opponent's